Let's look now at some examples of using the law of sines, and we're going to base these examples depending on the type of information that is given. Let's first look at an example where we know two angles and a side. We have a person piloting a hot air balloon and they get stuck above a long straight road. They have mile markers that tell them the length between 2 points, and they can determine the angle of depression to each of the two markers, but they want to know how high they are and their distance from a certain mile marker. So here's our situation. Notice we have a triangle, and the altitude that we drop down creates the right triangle. So from that, we can picture two triangles here. We have this triangle where we have H. This is angle B. Because we know this angle, we also know this angle, because with parallel lines, we can determine the alternate angles. And then we also have the bigger triangle here. Again, this is going to be side H. Because this angle is 15.66. Again, we also know this angle of 15.66. And then we can also determine the total angle right here to be 114.15 by subtracting from 180. If we turn this into just a triangle situation, notice that this length is 5,280 feet since it was a distance of 1 mile. And from this, we know two angles and one side. We can therefore determine the length of this side by doing b over the sine of 50.19 is going to equal 5,280 feet over the sine of c, which is 114.15. When we multiply this and bring it up, and using our calculator to determine that, we can determine that the length of side B is 4,445 feet. We can then use that to calculate our height, because remember, we can picture this now as a triangle that looks like this, where the length of this side is 4,455. We have our right triangle here, and we know the height, the length of B. Now we can determine the height because we know that the sine of that angle, which we determined to be 15.66, is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. And when we multiply that number up, we get that she's at a height of 1,200 feet.